Hey everybody, Economic Ninja here. If you could tell by the background, you know what I'm going to be talking about, and that's silver today, because we are having an absolute meltdown in the markets, and it actually involves silver. But we're going to talk about how silver was down for a second, but it wasn't out. I am with Sean. Oh man, I don't want to mess this one up. Kucoin. Sean, did I get this right?
You got it right, Ninja.
Oh gosh,
Well done. Well done.
I was joking around with him in the beginning because I'm like, I totally butcher people's names because the ninja don't read so well. But Sean is the CEO of Dolly Varden Silver, and I wanted to talk to him, or Dolly Varden, I apologize, because today is an epic meltdown in Facebook. We have announcements from the ECB. There's so much happening in the Forex markets, in the stock markets, and it actually took silver down. So without further ado, Sean, thank you so much for coming on. Where do you want to start?
Well, Ninja, first, I just want to say I'm grateful for you having me on. Thank you so much. Where do we want to start? I don't know. For me, I feel like I think back to Chernobyl.
Ooh, okay. I don't know where he's going with this.
So, Chernobyl happened, and I don't think that people understood the gravity of the situation when it happened. And I think that now, history has taught us, looking back, that things should have been done, or preparation should have been made, or evacuations. And I just think today's event with Facebook, we're going to look back and people are going to go, oh, we already priced this in. Nobody uses Facebook anymore. The kids are using TikTok. People don't understand how big this is, and the snowball effect. And so for me, as I was taking the elevator up to the office this morning, I put my head down and I just thought of Chernobyl, and I just thought, like, there are going to be some big implications. You mentioned the ECB in your morning comments. It's a crazy time right now with the ECB, with what the Bank of England did this morning, with what China did, raising rates, with what that's done to energy prices, what that's doing to commodity prices. Like, people are going to look around. They're not going to know what to think. So Ninja, give us some guidance, give us some leadership here. What are you seeing? What are you thinking? Am I off with the Chernobyl analogy? Or
I'm going to be honest with you. That totally took me by surprise. That's a great analogy, because people don't really realize this, but I've been a firefighter for 25 years. And the Chernobyl story is actually very, very real in this scenario, because the firefighters that responded really didn't understand the gravity of the situation. And if they would have made tactical decisions totally differently than they did. And it led to many firefighters' lives. And I still look at those videos today and are just blown away with the heroics of those firefighters. But yes, let's talk about in the market. So
Ninja, I'm going to cut you off again, but
yeah, it's all right.
Speaking of firefighters, I was talking to a buddy today, Chris Marcus, Arcadia Economics.
Yep.
And Chris is down in Mexico right now. And he was there in 9/11. During 9/11, he was a trader on Wall Street. And he talked about, the dust cloud. And he talked about today reminding him of 9/11. And again, like, I don't want to minimize, people losing lives. I don't, but you're a firefighter, and I think of the firefighters and the brave men and women in New York. And I just think that, like, this may not be a human tragedy in the sense that people's lives are being lost, but from a financial standpoint, if you look at the amount of cap, like you mentioned it earlier before we started recording, this is the single greatest loss for a stock. So do you want to?
Let's dive right into it. So Facebook today, we're going to actually share this. I'm going to share my screen real quick here. Let's jump in. All right. So, okay, we're going to talk about Facebook stock and the silver trade. So obviously Facebook got had to give out some horrible guidance, and we saw it open low, right? And that was at 9:30 a.m. But what's very interesting to me, and this is what happened to silver, at exactly 10 a.m., as Facebook started to really hit a low, this is what happened to silver. Silver literally fell off a cliff and on a dollar standpoint, it's not a big, but it was a pretty good, percentage loss. We were at around 22.40. We actually hit about 22 cents on a percentage basis. That was massive. But if you notice, it spiked right back up. So what we saw was algorithm trading, literally a liquidation event on algos trading right from here to here. And we're seeing it all over. To say that this is a big deal is actually an understatement, because it's the largest market cap loss that I believe we've seen in stock market history. And on a percentage basis, this is also the greatest loss Facebook has ever undergone too. So it is a big deal. But now, Sean, have you been following the ECB and what they're doing right now with their rate hikes, or the threat of even a bigger rate hikes coming in March?
Yes.
Okay, so what I find very interesting, and I want to ask you your take on this, we are seeing the Fed governors saying, our Fed saying, okay, we're looking to raise rates in March. They haven't yet. It's just jawboning, right? They're threatening to see what the market does, and the market completely puked in January. We saw stocks, S&P hadn't lost that much on a percentage basis since January of 2009, but now we're seeing the ECB ramp it up too and saying, hey, we're not only going to raise it, we're going to skyrocket that raise from, what was at one point, 25 basis points. Now they're calling for between 50 basis points and possibly 75 basis points. What do you think that is going to do, not only to the markets, but precious metals?
That's a really good question. So my thinking in terms of precious metals, we've got the real rate of inflation. Okay. And if we trust government numbers, that's at 7%. But if we look around the real, it's probably running more somewhere in the high double digits, right? But let's assume it's 7%. So you've got these interest rates, these lending rates, they've got to get up to a point where they're higher, they're higher than the real rate of inflation. The nominal rate needs to rise higher. And precious metals can rise until the nominal rate is higher than the real rate of inflation. So I think we've got precious metals have a long runway before we need to be concerned about them. And I think, I just don't believe them. I've seen the Fed do exactly the opposite of what they said they were going to do for over 10 years.
Yeah.
And I don't think they can raise rates right now. And if they do, I think what the Bank of England did today was a huge mistake. You don't raise rates into a weakening economy, and so that's my take on it.
It's almost like they're trying to spook the markets and see exactly what the markets are made of right now. Like they're threatening these massive rate increases that they're going to stop QE. Full blown, stop it. And it seems like they're waiting to see the reaction right now. And in a world where we're seeing things spike and drop, just amazing percentage gains and losses, it's almost like they're playing a game of chicken right now, a really scary game, right?
Absolutely. For me, Ninja, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. So for me, I keep it really simple. What is real money? Yep. Gold and silver. And so for me, that's how I'm protecting myself. It's a store of wealth. And I look at how well, like gold last year had the highest average price it ever has had in history. So if you were a gold producer, you got more money for your gold than you ever did at any other time in history. And so for me, gold is doing exactly what we want it to do. It's being that, that bellwether. It's being that stable store of value, and I think it's performing tremendous. You look at what the stock market did in January. You look at what the tech sector's down, 10% in the month of January. If gold were to be flat, it's still on a relative basis outperforming every asset class under the sun. The only exception would be energy.
I'm glad you brought that up, that over the average of 2021, gold has had this historic number on it, right? Whereas just recently, we've seen gold come off of the recent highs because of the dollar, them trying to pump value into the dollar. Even though they technically haven't done it, they're just jawboning saying, we're going to do it. We're going to raise rates. So then that brought the dollar to gold trade and changed it, right? Where the dollar was stronger on a percentage basis as opposed to gold. But here we have news out of China that they've added something like 40 to 45 more percent gold holdings in the last year. So really it's, banks are saying one thing, governments and nations are doing another, it seems like.
Absolutely. And you know what, for me, the way I've protected myself, my shareholders, and the people I care about is I saw what gold and silver were doing in other currencies other than the dollar. And if you look in Canadian dollar terms, I'm up here in Vancouver, Canada, we've got about a $2,300 gold price. So gold has protected Canadians even better than it has protected Americans. But if you look back before gold broke out, there was a breakout in the spring of 2019 where it finally broke above $1,350 an ounce, and it soared to almost $2,100 an ounce in about 12 months. It was breaking out in every other currency ahead of that. Yes. So it's so important to look at gold in a basket of currencies measured against a basket of goods to truly get price discovery. And the bottom line is, it's getting harder and harder to mine this stuff. You're having to go deeper into the jungles of the world and higher to the mountaintops to get the same types of grades. So it's scarce. and it's rare, and it's been money for 5,000 years.
Yeah. Now, it's no secret that your company has helped out my channel immensely in the past, helping sponsor the channel, and I am very grateful. But the reason why I reached out to you first, because a friend of mine, Jim Lewis, he one of the founders of Wall Street Silver, said Sean is literally one of the most connected and well-rounded CEOs in the industry. He explained why you have one of your greatest investors is I'm a huge fan of, is Eric Sprott. And I absolutely love the relationship that you guys have and how you're able to talk about economics on a level that I have not seen in quite some time. I really do appreciate that. Now, I want to talk about your company specifically because you told me a story a little while ago that you had a goal set, and it's almost very similar. Well, yours is a lot bigger. But you're nailing it right now, because I started this channel and I wanted to show the masses, the world, the difference between God's money and fiat currency. In my opinion, I wanted to open up the world to getting rid of debt and opening up them to the idea of becoming free financially. Right. Well, you had a goal to build your company up when people said you weren't going to be able to pull it off. Do you want to talk about that, like the market cap and what you did? Because I'm not even joking, guys. Like, Sean doesn't know that I'm talking about this, but this story he told me about a couple of weeks back really sort of resonated in me, and I wanted to have him talk about it.
Okay, I appreciate that. Well, first of all, like, I'm grateful to Jim's comments. I'm grateful to your comments. I'm surrounded by some exceptional people. Like, I was at a dinner last night where an award was given out to Chris Taylor from Great Bear, where, it's really true through science that wealth is created. And Chris took a company at 15 cents a share, and Kinross is buying them at $30 a share. And this is just within a couple of years. It's probably one of the greatest
Wow.
greatest wealth creations. It's just a tremendous story. But the difference between me and Chris Taylor and a lot of my other peers is the reason I'm here is not for a quest of discovery, or not because I was an accountant who was auditing the books of a mining company and then I got into. I'm here because I am passionate about gold and silver. Okay. And I'm passionate about gold and silver because I'm passionate about protecting my family. Yeah. And I'm looking around the world at what's happening. And I think we're going back to a time where the only thing that's going to get me through this is going to be gold and silver. And so I've been working around mining companies for 20 years. Yeah. And during the last cycle, during the 2000s, 2005 to 2010, I was a part of a gold company that grew from $0 to $1.5 billion. And what I witnessed through growing that company was the silver grew exponentially faster. Once gold went into a bull market, silver outperformed, and it did it quickly. And so I was deliberate. As I thought we were approaching a turn in the metals, I sought out Dolly Varden because of where it was, because of the grade. So I took over 2 years ago. It was February 16th, 2020. I took over this company. It had a $20 million valuation. We're about to close a deal. When we close that deal, we're going to be a $165 million company. Wow. So that's a pretty significant increase inside of 2 years. It's 7-8x on market cap. In terms of share price growth, I took over at 24.5 cents a share. We're currently trading at 70 cents a share. So we've had a nice share price appreciation, 3x. And this is at a time when gold and silver have been relatively flat. Like the silver prices have been hammered in the last 12 months. A lot of my peers are down. The best peers are down 20%. Some of the, not best in breed are down even more. And our stock has appreciated in the last 30, 60 days. So we've done this by being acquisitive. We are acquiring a big project that's unifying a big belt. So we're going from 44 million ounces of silver to 140 million ounces of silver. So we're building silver inventory accretively. We're also making discoveries through exploration. So my goal here, Ninja, is I'm in an area where the major mining companies like Newcrest and Newmont, they want to acquire companies like Newcrest. I was at a breakfast the other day with the Newcrest VPX, and they're the number 3 gold miner in the world. They want to be the number 1 gold miner in the world. They're a company out of Australia. They've spent $4 billion in my backyard buying up my neighbors.
Wow.
And I'm convinced that if we continue on the growth trajectory.
Yeah.
You know, we've added 100 million ounces of silver inside of 2 years. We've grown some market cap, but we've done all this at a time where the metals have been muted.
Yeah.
You know, I think we need to look bigger, and I think there's a huge growth coming, and I think it's going to be very difficult to get this stuff out of the ground. So anyways, that's what we're doing. We're growing. Yeah.
Okay. So I want you to understand, I don't want this to be like a typical story about like, we're talking about Dolly Varden, the company, and the pros and cons and all that stuff, right? I want you to understand why I asked him about this. In a time where silver price was coming down, Dolly Varden was increasing. And I've been telling you, I am looking at all these different mining companies because right now precious metals have not moved in line with inflation. But I talked about this last year. I said, get ready for inflation in the fall. We're seeing it. But just like the late 70s, as inflation was ramping up, and I believe inflation is going to get worse from here, it hit a certain point in the human psyche where in the late 70s, like, oh man, something's going wrong. It's not getting better because humans think things are going to get better. And then they ran to those precious metals, and we saw the precious metals start to go up, but then to just skyrocket. We haven't even hit this yet. So that's why I wanted to talk to Sean, because I know that with the price of metals coming down a little bit this last year, you're seeing companies, still mining companies, because of decisions they're making right now, increasing in value. Now this isn't financial advice. You know, I'm not a financial advisor, but what's it going to happen to these companies when all of a sudden gold and silver start to take off in price? Like what we saw in palladium, platinum, rhodium, or lumber, or anything like that. I mean, what do you think, Sean?
Well, I from experience, I think we've got like a 10x move from here, and then we'll go into the mania phase, and we'll have another 10x move. So I think it's a 100x move for some companies. Yes. But Ninja, the way I look at this stuff is everybody wants instant gratification, right? Everybody wants to be healthy, but they don't want to eat right and they want to work out, right? So it's the same in any aspect of life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's health, whether it's finance. What your viewers have to do is they need to make the investment into the precious metals now.
Yeah.
And they've got to be prepared for those metals to go down or for these stocks to go down. But you can't time it.
So yeah, I agree with you, but I'm always telling people to nibble a little bit, right? Get to know the team, nibble a little bit on that investment to diversify, right? Because right now, I mean, we've seen what you weren't running Dolly Varden back in 2008, obviously, but when everything got hammered, a liquidation event, miners went down. But when precious metals bottomed well before the stock market and started that multi-year bull run, we saw miners go up 500, 600, 700%. And since that was pre-crypto, there was nothing like that in recent times. So I completely agree with you.
I guess my point, Ninja, is if you're not allocated, if you're on the sidelines and you're looking in, get allocated. Yeah. If you already have a position and you're thinking about adding more, maybe you start with 10% of what you're looking to invest and you ease into the investment, right? Yes. But I'm just thinking that, if we wake up tomorrow or next week or next month or even next year and more of your wealth is being confiscated, whether it's through inflation, whether it's through bank bail-ins, whether it's through higher taxes, like, I'm sorry, they're coming for your money.
I agree. And I have mining stocks that have done way better than most of these FANG stocks have done in the last year. So I know exactly what you're talking about, but you're right. Instant gratification. People get upset if tomorrow something doesn't moon and you're like, well, wait a minute now. You're literally dealing with an epic battle of fiat versus God's money. I mean, you're going to, when it snaps, it's going to snap. We just don't know when.
Yeah. And the thing is, I never once said like Dolly Varden, like this is about bullion. It's about go get yourself some silver, go get yourself some gold, go buy yourself some First Majestic, right? Go buy the best in breed. Dolly Varden is a growth story, right? And it's one of many mining companies that are out there. But I think that your viewers should go out and buy 1 ounce of silver. And
that is amazing advice. I completely agree with you. Please, guys, understand what he's saying here. There's one thing to say to buy bullion. Then once you get into miners, knowing the difference between a major, a junior, or an exploration company is huge. But you want some exposure to everything. But yeah, nibble a little bit. No, I really appreciate you saying that because I think it's very important for people to realize.
I think that, like, I was reading this article from Peter Monk. Peter Monk came over to Canada. He built a company called Barrick Gold. And I was looking at Barrick's earnings from when this article was published. They'd made $4.5 billion that year, which was rivaling some of the big Canadian banks. And my belief is gold miners, silver miners are going to be the new bank stocks. And that's where I think we're going. And, you know, if you look at, like, I look at one of our big banks here in Canada, RBC, if somebody had put $1 million into RBC 20 years ago, that $1 million would be worth $5 million today, but it would be paying $165,000 a year in dividends. So you'd get 3x your money in dividends, you'd get 5x your money on equity. So your million turns into 8 million, and it's a pretty safe bet. That's what you're going to get from the big miners, the Newmonts, the Barricks, the Newcrests, the First Majestics. That's the type of safe growth they're going to deliver. It's going to come over time, but where else can you get that type of growth in an everything bubble environment where you've got, you know, you tell them that PayPal story.
Oh man, I haven't even done the story yet today, but literally PayPal just had to cancel. I don't remember how many. It was insane. It was either 150, I think it was 150,000 accounts because they're all fake accounts. And then actually, I didn't talk to you about this today, Sean. Did you hear about the Bank of America branch? I believe it was in California, that a man went and deposited a $33,000 check. The next day, the branch closed its doors. And the story is this guy doesn't know where he's going to get his money. They're like, well, sorry, we closed. The branch is actually closed down. Like, it doesn't sound like it's because of some illness where they don't have enough employees. So yes, there's so many things right now that are fake, whereas in the end, they're always going to run to what is real. And it's just a cycle.
Yeah, no, I just think we've built up this whole economy on like ad generating businesses, right? And I just think that we don't make anything anymore. There's nothing real. Like, and we're gonna have this era where we go back to real things, and the realest of all real things are precious metals.
Yeah.
And then other commodities, copper. Like, we're going to want to continue to live in the world we're living in terms of this modern world where we have clean drinking water, and if we want to move to things like electric vehicles or continue to be used electronics, we need these metals.
Yeah.
And so it's the most underweighted sector on the board.
Yeah. And I was talking to Keith the other day, Newmeyer, because he invested in a few recycling companies. He said they just don't make money. It costs so much to recycle silver. And he was talking about how embedded that silver is in these circuit boards. You can't even get it out. So at this price silver, you cannot recycle it. We are literally losing it like crazy.
Yeah. And I just think that you look at what's happening all over the world in terms of just getting more and more difficult to mine this stuff. And most silver comes as a byproduct. The uses are increasing. So silver is set. So I've got more confidence in silver than I have in anything else in my life right now. Silver is the only metal, one of the only assets I've ever come across that hasn't gone past its old high, and it's going to soar here. So I think silver is a slam dunk. And if you want to take on a little bit more leverage, buy a silver mining company, because then you get leverage to the millions, or in some cases, hundreds of millions, or in some cases, billions of ounces those mining companies have in the ground.
I completely agree. And guys, you heard Sean, he's already having breakfast with the big boys. And so obviously you got to look at where these stories are leading. And on the heels of 2 weeks ago, I want to close on this. Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary talking about how great of an opportunity Meta and Facebook is. Well, look at what's going on today. So I love it when you say things that silver has not hit its all-time high. It's bumped it twice, but where small-time thinking investors go, oh, well, look at it hasn't performed, and they're buying things like Facebook last week. I smile and go, that means I get to buy more. I have more time to buy more. So I'm pumped. Hey, on that, is there anything you want to close with?
No, that's all. Ninja, thanks for having me on. I'm grateful you're doing it. So, everybody's such a service, and I can't wait for when we get into that mania phase. You're going to look back and go, like, it's going to be incredible.
You will see more billionaires made in the mining industry, I believe, in the next 5 years than any other industry.
But also think about this. Think about how universal it's going to be. Like, you try to explain crypto to, your grandmother, or people understand sound money. It's been around for 5,000 years. So people are going to adopt this idea faster.
Oh, yeah.
And so it's going to, when it happens, and that's why I say you need to go out and get your metals today, because when it happens, it's going to be too late. And we've already seen a slow creep. You know, gold's gone from 200 to 1800. Silver's gone from $4 to $22. You know, they've already woken up, but they're still drastically on sale, especially on a relative basis.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. And I love the word sound money, because when you take two silver coins and you clang them together, it makes a sound that just does something to you. Well, hey, I'm going to get this out right now because I think this is big news. I'm just super stoked to watch silver spike down and recover like that. I think obviously the algos woke up and went, what are we doing? Hold on to the stuff that's valuable. So thanks so much, Sean, for being on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Ninja. All the best.
Right. Awesome, man. Well, with that being said, guys, the Economic Ninja is out.